And so the show opens with the classic fanfare for the common man.
Bum, bum, bum.
Well, so I wanted to like ELP that. I'm like, we could close the show that way on purpose. And everyone was like, yeah! And Carolyn's like, no.
I wasn't watching, but we might actually be live now.
We kind of are. Hey. Not really. He's testing live just to make sure.
All right.
Maybe we're live. He sent me a message. It looks like we're live.
Awesome. Well, welcome to another episode of How Did You Get There? How did we get there? Technological updates.
Yeah. So if the sound is weird, we're working on it. It's an ongoing thing. And
bear with us.
Studebaker. So yes, this is How Did You Get There? A show where we're critical of thoughts, ideas, opinions, and beliefs, not necessarily the people that hold them. These opinions are ours and the ones that we have chosen to share. So we take responsibility for these opinions. It's not just it's just my opinion kind of statement. It's these are my opinions. Be critical.
Be critical. Change my mind.
Yes, please send us questions.
Yeah.
Today, over the past few days, there was an event called
Upper Bound.
Apparently, this was not just a local or regional event.
No. This is a big artificial intelligence type conference with speakers from all over the world. Kind of, sort of.
I mean, we didn't necessarily draw all the Mongolian programmers in, but
no, like it's predominantly an Edmonton-centric kind of event. It's put on by the Alberta Machine Intelligence Institute, or AMII, AMII.
Mm-hmm.
That is one of Canada's three centers of machine learning excellence. The other two are MILA. I don't know what that stands for, but it's roughly the same thing, but in French, because it's in Montreal. And,
I was going with Manitoba. Dang.
And the Vector Institute out of Toronto, where some really brilliant people work, and we also have some exceedingly brilliant people up in Edmonton at AMII. Many of them are attached as adjunct professors at the University of Alberta. There's a ton of machine learning and artificial intelligence work up there. Dr. Rich Sutton, who recently was awarded or co-awarded the AM Turing Medal for computational. It's like the computer science equivalent of a Nobel Prize, because Nobel famously did not like mathematicians, which is why there's also no
math award.
No math award. The equivalent for math is the Field Award. Fields Award.
Fields. I think it's the Fields.
And so
Field apostrophe. Like Nobel's Prize.
I think so.
Yeah.
I've been wrong before. I'm okay with that. I'm going to look it up once we're off the air.
Oh, all right. Seems fair.
Yeah. So there were speakers, a bunch across a number of areas of artificial intelligence. The work that gets done in Edmonton is really focused on reinforcement learning.
Okay.
Which is a particular style. And you can do, there's deep learning, but doesn't exclude reinforcement learning. A lot of the machine learning methods are gradient descent, which is essentially iteratively using calculus to find some minimal or maximal value. So if you imagine that you are hiking in the mountains and you want to get to the tallest peak in the mountains, what do?
I pull
head uphill.
Oh, I guess, okay.
Like, you have no other tools.
Oh, okay, yeah, I was going to say I pull up my topographical map and go that way.
It's just you on the ground.
I'm the guy making the map, and I need to find the tallest one.
Yeah, you have an altimeter, but that's all you've got.
We're great.
Right? So, you want to find the top of the tallest peak.
Uh-huh.
So, what do? Go up.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Right? And in general, that's a good strategy. It's not perfect.
No, it's definitely energy expending if you pick wrong the first time.
Right. If you start in the wrong place, you're going to get to a local maxima.
Mm-hmm.
But not the global maxima.
Yes.
necessarily. You might.
You might not even hit the local one. Like, I might decide, because of my perspective, mountain A is taller than mountain B. I ascend mountain A only to look to my left and discover there's a lot more mountain B there.
Right, so you've hit a local maximum. You can't go any farther up mountain A.
Oh, fair. Okay.
Right, that's okay. Right, so you get to the top of that one and you go, apparently I've reached the upper bound of this mountain. And hence the concept, and so when we do this with data, we're doing this, so that example is basically a three-dimensional rendering. So across 2 dimensions, we're trying to find the tallest height. So we have 2 dimensions to traverse and then a height to measure. So we have 3 dimensions in play. So in machine learning, when we encode the data, we will maybe take it across 1,000 dimensions. Typically, it's something that's base 2, so 1,024 dimensions, or 256 dimensions, or something. And so what we're doing, that creates what we would refer to as a hyperplane. And so when we are trying to run all of these various hyperplanes through, we're trying to find some kind of global or local minima or maxima. That's what we're doing. We're trying to find the upper bound. We're trying to find a limit that makes sense.
I'm curious then, just because I want to follow this analogy of bounding. Outward bound.
Completely unrelated, but it helps us find.
But it was following the camping analogy of finding upper bound on a physical thing.
And it is the same thing.
I was going to say.
It helps us find our personal physical and psychological limits.
Right? We can only discover that limit if we hit the outward bound.
Yes.
Rather than just an upper one. I think maybe even a better analogy might be outward bound. What is our outward bound?
Except that mathematically that's not a thing.
No, for sure. Because there's internals and hyperdimensions. I won't say I know them, but I understand how they're achieved.
Yeah, and it sounds really weird. People say, oh, well, our universe probably has no more than 17 dimensions.
Or I'm a classical guy.
Sure.
Up, down, left, right, how long did those take?
But even if it's 5, or 6, or 17, it's still pretty manageable. We can't see them all.
Fair.
Right?
Yeah.
And I saw, I believe it was Matt Parker, Stand Up Mats.
Yeah.
Great guy. I've never met him, but he's an excellent maths educator.
Cool.
And a good entertainer too. Check him out on the YouTubes. He's great.
I think maybe our 3rd or 4th promotion, and it will continue. Just so you know.
Yeah. Maybe he'll want to be on our show someday.
Just write him a letter. I bet you so many of those guys are actually super cool about that. I think we should start doing the Christmas wish lists.
Yeah. So I believe it was him that talked about how would we know, like how would we recognize something from a higher dimension? And he's actually got a really good analogy for it. So if you imagine that you live on a plane, not an airplane, not an aircraft,
but a flat plane.
On a flat plane, and you're walking along, you would see, if a pen comes down, you can't look up, you can't look down, you can only look straight ahead, you would see an interruption on your plane. And if the pencil is passing right through the piece of paper, you would see it, and then it'd be gone. Right? So if you scale up to one more dimension, then we could see a 4-dimensional thing as a 3-dimensional thing passing through.
Yes.
We call that time.
That was going to be my measure. My thing is there's a measured effect. Gravity's often my tool in these kinds of conversations. I can make some amazing predictions based on what we think gravity does and how it behaves. But like really consistent and amazing predictions. Do we have a clue what gravity is? Not really. Can I show you what a gravity is? Definitely not. But I can show you how it works. I can show you what it does. So there's that.
And I can use my predictive rules to guess what's going to happen in a place where I've never done an experiment involving the gravities ever before.
Right. And so that's sort of where I get to on those kinds of, sure, there's 6 dimensions, but like for them to matter is separate than for them to exist.
Yeah.
And I think, like, especially in this learning model, I think you're heading towards that I don't need to be the one that perceives all of these dimensions. I need my tool that can see all but the highest one.
Yeah.
To do that so that it can at least measure the effect of the highest one.
Yeah, that's the general notion that we're going with. And we also, when we're talking about physical dimensions, yeah, we're hard pressed to do more than 3 or 4 if you count time, right? We're very hard pressed to do that. However, it is very easy to conceive of a 5-dimensional thing.
But for those of you in the Marvel universe, Tesseract.
Yeah, allow me to describe a 5-dimensional thing. My shirt. One of the dimensions is the fabric type. One of the dimensions is the sleeve length. One of the dimensions is the overall shirt size. One of the dimensions is the color. One of the dimensions is the number of buttons.
Yeah,
I think I listed 5.
I think
if I didn't, then
the color.
Another one is it colored or uncolored?
Yeah.
Right. So those are
the dimensions, roughly, and I'm being very vague and rough on purpose, are the descriptions thereof, regardless of, like, as long as the application is consistent, right? If we measure every shirt by number of buttons, if buttons are there, collar is there, the color, the fabric, the texture, the everything.
So we can say shirts are defined, each individual shirt can be defined over this set of, let's say, for example, 5 dimensions. Like, does it have a collar or not? Does it have long?
So
what is the length of the sleeves?
Yeah, 3/4.
Right? Or X percentage, right? Some percentage of relation to the body, right?
Yeah.
So there's lots of ways you can encode that, and you do that, and then now we have all shirts.
Allow me to lead you in. You say all shirts, but like, there's 2 things getting in the way of this. 1, we haven't made all the shirts yet. 2, impractical to go out and check every shirt.
True,
right? So there might be a solution to this problem, i.e. the uninvented shirt and the shirts we just can't get to because I just don't have the money to get around the world and look at every shirt. Or the time.
Yeah, and honestly,
that's like wanting to read every book.
If I were doing shirts, we would need more than 5 dimensions.
Oh yeah. But just as let's take care of the analogy.
But so I'm gonna, and here's one of the things that's important about that notion that we probably need more than 5 is we probably also want to have a size of a neck hole. That is something greater than 0.
Yes.
But less than, the size of a country.
Yeah, okay. I was thinking like a 0 to 100 being like 0 in comparison percentage to the shoulder width and 100% in comparison to the shoulder width.
Sure.
Because then it's just a tube and not really a shirt.
But we could have 100, but tube tops are a thing.
But not shirts.
They could be a tube top shirt.
Look at that.
Right?
Look at us refine the model already.
Right, and honestly, that is a ton of the problem in being a computer scientist, especially a data scientist, is figuring out how to capture all the variables you want. Now, again, you've pointed out that it's impractical to make every possible shirt, and you might want to investigate ways of making shirts, but you need to make sure that they also still fit people.
Yes. To create the perfect shirt doesn't necessarily mean it fits somebody.
Yeah, I mean, art projects aside, like something that has eye holes cut into the chest because you can't get it over your head because
that's a shirt. It's still a shirt
because the neck hole is only 3 centimeters in diameter.
Every child's nightmare. I'm still in this turtleneck.
Oh, the game of Alabama.
There's eye holes.
The eye holes
in the tube that comes down.
Yep. Which is fine. So what we might want to do then is, given that we have these a parameterized model of shirts, we could also have a parameterized model of what a human is, And then we could build computer simulations of shirts to put on computer simulations of people to see if it's worth expending the energy. Or we could have it so that ultimately, if we do this with machine learning, we could train models that could make reasonable adjustments to make new shirts.
You're just trying to replace tailors and clothing designers. No, I'm
trying to free them up to be creative and do neat things.
Yeah.
Much like the automated washing machine has freed up women to have so much leisure time.
That is what happened right away.
For like 20 minutes.
Then they got to change the load over to the dryer, put it through the wringer.
And I say it that way, and
the auto wringer.
And I am aware how sexist that thing sounds, but that was how it was phrased in the day when the device was created.
Vacuum cleaner.
The vacuum cleaner, same thing.
Yeah.
Have you seen the hand-powered ones? Yeah, you can either crank them or they have a...
Oh, I have seen those.
Like a billows.
Where you build the vacuum within the thing.
Yeah, do this.
Which legit makes sense.
Yeah. It's not for cleaning vacuums. It uses vacuum for cleaning.
Yes.
Right, a water hose.
It's not a hose for water. It is a hose for distributing water.
Correct, yeah. This is for distributing vacuum.
Equally and, gravity-based. Oh, sorry, no, classical. Never mind.
I must be nature, because I abhor the vacuum.
It sucks.
All right, so if we can accept that we can describe parts of the world with these multidimensional descriptions or parameterized descriptions.
Yeah, that's a maybe, right? I think it's like going to be a language hang-up for me and maybe the average layperson to say dimensions in that sort of aspect. No pun intended, I guess.
It's a very mathy thing to do.
Yes. So, to call it a dimension is just adding a plane, very simply, adding a plane of description, right?
Yeah, so we in mathematics, we talk about vectors. And at the root, they have a magnitude and a direction, right? But often in some branches of mathematics, we have a vector which is a directed array of some number of discrete values. The values are not related to each other except conceptually.
Right.
So you can think of that like a bunch of mailboxes, an arbitrary number of mailboxes, but we'll limit it to, say, 256. And each mailbox can hold exactly one parcel, can be any parcel of an agreed upon size.
Gotcha.
And what's in array spot number one, vector spot number one, is discrete from what's in number two, in number three. And we talk about each of those places as holding a thing, and each one of those becomes a dimension of that vector.
Yes, got it.
Because the vector goes this way, and then the magnitude of what's in each one goes this way. So we have a vector, and it has a dimension.
It has a dimension at each place within at each array within that vector.
Yeah, each mailbox gets a package of some size, and then what you do is I have that one, and that would describe one thing, perhaps one shirt, or 10 shirts, and then I have another one that's this, and another one that's this. So I get a stack of them.
So in each of these 256 mailboxes is the potential to hold one thing and one thing only, discrete from each other mailbox, but one thing from each array.
Yes.
And then within each mailbox is the contents of that array search, kind of.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay. Just trying to...
Right. So we use machine learning to decide what should be in those boxes. And I use decide kind of loosely. So what we would do is we would say, hey, I have observed this of a shirt. Let's not going to go with shirts because it kind of started there.
Yep.
Didn't think this through it.
That's all right.
I would pick something else a different day.
We can make it work. We can massage. Which would be an excellent shirt.
I would like to figure out how to identify whether the thing I'm looking at is a shirt or not.
Okay, we're if this makes sense to me, other than all of the arrested cyclists, or well, all the cyclists blocked from their email because they're using traffic light captcha.
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah.
But it's this. We're basically giving captcha to the mailbox, right? Like it needs to see this thing and go, "Yep, that's a shirt. Yep, that's a shirt." It doesn't care what the things that make it a shirt, but it's going to definitely disregard pants trying to be put in it.
Yeah. Well, and it's more fine grained than that.
Cool.
Right. So it's
I
like
thought I was being.
you're on the right track.
Yeah.
So there are some machine learning sort of works like this. We have some input dimensions, we have some number of hidden dimensions, and we have some output dimensions. And so the input is I have an example of a shirt,
Mm-hmm.
and I say next size material, all these things, and I just pick one arbitrary shirt, and then I shove it into the network, and it goes, yep, I'm going to distribute this across the hidden parts, weights and maths, vector arithmetic. Use a GPU, it's really cool.
Yeah.
Thank you, NVIDIA, for making all of them. So I'm sorry that you're the only company because it makes it very expensive for all of us, but you do some cool stuff with your profits. So trade-offs. And then at the end of the day, it spits out, I think this is what a shirt looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And then you compare, then what you would do is you would compare that to what a shirt looks like. And you go, okay, well, the thing that you've predicted is a shirt does not match the shirt I put in.
Mm-hmm.
If it did, we would have an autoencoder,
Mm-hmm.
which is very handy. And it does not match this arbitrary other shirt.
Gotcha. Like I have given you this shirt, and I have in my brain the variances that are allowable to still call this thing a shirt.
Yeah.
And then so when it produces,
So when it comes
something-
back and so when it produces something that has a neck hole that's only 3 centimeters, but everything else is right,
a shirt for ants.
we do math going the other way, and we adjust the weights for how much each box contributes to the final output. So we back propagate the difference, and then we have a forward pass, and then we back propagate, and then we have a forward propagation and a back propagation, and eventually, if you do this enough times, when I say, is this a shirt, it can go, yup.
Ah, gotcha. So, just playing around a little bit. It recently came to pass that, and Grok is beautiful for saying so. It knows when it's being messed with from the programming level. Like it doesn't know, no, but it retains that it's been given learning procedures. And initially it was set up to not be concerned with political correctness, but only deliver the truth. This is how it was set up, because reasons. And so it does do that. It doesn't actually deliver truth. It gives its very best rhetoric version of news it has access to, or information it has access to. But what it doesn't do is butter it up. It doesn't make it pretty. It just tells you what, of the facts that are available, this is what it knows the facts to be. And this has been given Grok the title of woke because it keeps coming up with facts without passion, but it doesn't always align with those that have set up Grok. Its truth value overrides its political correctness value.
Right. So shirts are very, in this example, are very simple. Let's consider sentences or paragraphs or ideas or stories. Right. So we're doing the same thing, and it's we do it at a couple of layers. So there's a data layer, and that's where we're doing this learning part. So large language models take lots of language from lots of sources, and they learn the values identified with words and how they relate to other words.
Just trying to keep our audience half as clued in, I hope, at least as I try to be. Basically, at a perceptible level, when I am texting someone and it guesses what my next word is going to be, and it's the more correct choice,
it's likely to be right, because if you type, if you have previously typed,
that's the thing,
happy.
Yeah, it's going to either say birthday or whatever that people typically say after
because
happy.
Those tokens together it's learned a pattern that says, if I see these tokens, the most likely token next is a B.
Yep.
Followed by an I, followed by an R, right? And as you type BI,
it's like, yep,
it's
birthday.
like, yep, birthday. Like there are very few other words that could possibly be. Now you could make something up. You could say like happy
binge,
happy binge,
happy bingo.
Right. Take that. Lots of things you could be saying, but the most probable one is that, right? And we're all familiar with autocorrect, right? Which is AI. It's not AI like we think of AI today, but it's the same principle.
Yes.
We did a handcrafted version of one of those based on a very small dictionary when I was doing my master's. We used what's called the Viterbi algorithm, which basically assigns you learn the likelihood of the next character based on a given character, and then you can use you can use a dynamic programming solution. Not nearly as exciting as it sounds.
It's not as dynamic as it sounds.
Yeah, it's called dynamic programming. But it's not programming. It's not programming like today's programming. It's programming like 1940s, like World War II programming.
Nice.
in terms of
Switch.
Planning. It's not even computer programming.
No, but
it's like logistics.
Oh, okay, very good. Yeah.
Like a program would be a pattern of logistics in that term, which is where the dynamic programming came from.
Like a food bank. We have a program of food banks, and the logistics is resupplying the food bank.
More or less, yeah.
Okay.
Right. So yeah, we have this sort of predictive thing, and we see it in a very small sense with autocorrect or predictive texting. T9 predictive text.
Right.
Same principle.
And that was a decade ago?
Yep. Or more.
Maybe.
And the rest?
Well, I was thinking it's only been like 22 years since iPhone.
Yeah, so and T9 predates that.
Yeah, it does a little bit.
Yeah. So this is what we're doing with this. So what we've done is we've used a whole bunch of language to learn the relational things. I like to think of it as like an equalizer instead of boxes, like a graphic EQ, on a soundboard. Like if we want to have this particular sound, when I'm playing this sound, it means this is up here and this is down here and this is up here and this is way up here, right? And you learn how to do that by doing it over time. And then you go, okay, and I'm going to remember that. So next time I hear a sound that sounds like that, I know what that picture looks like. Or if I see something that's kind of like that,
I can get there and sort of make adjustments if needed.
Yeah, and that led us into things like word to vec which is vec is vector, word is word. So each word in a dictionary is assigned a set of values, and for a small dictionary, like maybe 10,000 tokens, words, you can actually be very successful with it with as few as 256-ish dimensions across. So 256 values in the range of 0 to 1, and you can define 10,000 words. And then you can learn what those values are for each word relative to all the other words. And then you can do word math, like king minus man plus woman
queen
gives you queen.
Yeah.
And you can actually literally do that math with those values, and you will get that kind of output.
Gotcha.
With some high degree of reliability, like better than that of a toddler.
Yes, I believe we've exceeded Goldfish AI.
Yes, we have no intention. It has no intentionality at all.
Correct.
But from the knowledge representation side, we've built the thing that says this is the way everything appears to be related based on how I've learned it. Sidebar: this is why our AI systems have bias. They have encoded historic systemic bias. That's all. That'll be a topic for a whole other day.
Yay!
Right. So we're doing this thing where we have these rules, and one of the cool parts. So this is the modern way of dealing with AI and data. We just take all the data that we have available to us until there is no more prepared data, and we've run out of shirts to measure.
I've given it already the complete 14-volume set of the OED.
Yes,
and it now
and
wants
Webster's
more,
and every Encyclopedia Britannica ever published, and everything that's on the internet.
Yep. Anything digital. Probably.
Yeah, or digitizable, yes.
Yeah.
Right, and lots of work and worry about encoding, and those things are important.
But to go back to our shirt analogy, what about the shirts that haven't been made yet?
Right. So what we end up doing then is saying, okay, we know enough about shirts that we could actually, instead of just saying, oh yeah, that's a shirt, eh? We can say, all right, make me a shirt. So I will give you some setup. Like I will say blue, and I will say that Bob is size 42 tall. Make me a shirt. And we will roll some dice to get us started, and it will do the thing where it goes through the network from some particular things and produce a shirt. And if we had like a shirt printing device, we could actually make that shirt, and then Bob could try it on. Or we could just take a model of Bob, and we could make a model of the shirt that we just designed. I put the model on the model. I go, yeah, that's terrible.
Yeah.
Or yeah, that's good. And then what we could do is we could learn how to better choose sizes, because we have a static model of Bob and a flexible model of how to make shirts.
So we can keep adjusting our shirt till it fits the model well.
Right, and then we can also do some co-creation at the other end, where we say, okay, give me a shirt, and then I can say, okay, I like that, but I'm going to tweak this last little bit.
So I like Bob's shirt, but I need now a shirt like that fits me.
Right.
Got it.
So lots of that, and for shirts, that's pretty good. For things like robots or cars, for example, let's claim that we want to have autonomous vehicles that can drive up and down city streets and do all the things and not kill people.
Yeah.
Seems cool. Or kill people at a lower frequency than regular drivers.
Yes.
I think we want it so they never kill people.
That's.
But I think the threshold should kill people demonstrably less.
Yes.
Than regular drivers do. So assuming we want that, we can't just send these cars out to learn, to gather all the data.
Oh, I actually
driving up and down the streets.
I actually killed a person. I got to learn some more.
Yeah. We don't want to do that.
Oh, weird.
So there's a limited number of streets that we can try this on. And since the machine has to have its own proprioceptive model of itself to figure out where it is on the road, it's got an internal model of how it works, I presume. And it's getting sensor input, which we could simulate. So we know how buildings are built, and we know how streets are laid out. So couldn't we just, much like making a model of a shirt to put on a model of Fred or Bob? Sorry, couldn't we put a model of
a
city, and take the symbols that are the model of that, and shove them into the model of the car, and have the car navigate the model of the car, navigate the model of the streets, and then we can insert. And if you start to think about just how much data is involved there, it's a lot. Now, one of the things
what if it's a rainy day? What if
so how's it going to happen in the rain, or in the snow, or in the sleet, or a fog, at day, at night, or any combination of those things?
Power failure on a traffic light.
It will never be day and night at the same time. Fine. But they'll be somewhere between day and night. That's a thing.
Yeah.
And in order to generate the data live,
Did you just put days on a spectrum? Anyway, go ahead.
yeah, sure did. Yeah.
Sorry.
And sometimes they're always on.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're always off. It depends on where you are.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's impractical to do that. So what we can do, wouldn't it be great if we could generate a city and then put our car that's learning to drive in a generated city?
Quick question.
Yeah.
So, for example, when we make one of these game computers, for example, one that solves checkers, right? Because the reason it was able to do so is it could do all of those things. And humans could have sat there and we could have just absolutely brute forced that. I'm sure someone did with checkers. But we just gave the computer like an hour and it figured it out, right? So if we can, rather than, getting your Google Drive car going around and learning about what roads look like, once we've got that model done, that part, right? We already built the checkerboard. We've already put the pieces on. Now we just got to figure it out. Can our AI learning car model do it not at real time? Like, can it do the hyper, like, because it's playing, it's playing against itself? Like, it could learn it. Instead of someone driving for 100 years to generate enough data, the computer can run the model like
over and over
10 days and have the same amount of total.
Yeah, it's assuming we had enough city, and we want to have enough variation in the city because we would like to be able to ultimately anticipate things. Like, what happens if I was in the city and I drive out of town? Like, there's
yeah.
So the idea that is that you would generate this stuff, and then you would have the car just drive and
Mm-hmm.
and do all the things it has to do, stop and start and avoid other traffic and all the things, somebody kicking a ball into the street and then running after it, because these things happen and they're sudden and they're unexpected. So you might be driving down the same street 100 times and once.
That's when it's more likely to be a problem, actually.
Right. So you want it to be able to learn what to do in that once.
Mm-hmm.
And it needs to be right more often than not. Like, significantly more.
Yeah.
Right, and that's fine, and it would be able to do that very well. If you're learning checkers, there are only so many places you can be on the board.
Oh yeah.
The number of states of a checkerboard is finite.
Yes, that's how come it can be solved.
It can be solved. The number of positions you could have all the chess pieces, or any number of chess pieces, on an active chessboard is finite. It is very large.
It hasn't been solved yet, though.
Oh, but we could tell you how many. Like,
we can give us absolutely the number. It's a maths thing.
Somebody can tell you how many possible legal board configurations there are in chess.
Yes. That wouldn't necessarily help you win.
You could possibly also then reasonably posit and maybe calculate how many ways there are to get to each of those states. Some of them are very easy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so
one pawn forward, one.
So the opening, all the openings to a certain degree are easily tractable.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The end games are easily tractable, but there are so many permutations of how to move the pieces in between the opening and the end game that it is not possible with current computing technology to find every possible game state allowable before the universe dies its heat death.
Correct. Yes.
I put lots of the caveats on there because
that's just a back end ask, I guess. That's what IP essentially means. No. NP. That's right. Not. Yes. Very good.
Yeah. So there are things that can be solved that we can solve in a reasonable amount of time, and there are things that, as the problem gets larger, we could solve small versions of it, but it rapidly spirals out of control. P versus NP. Every problem that's in the NP space can be reduced to any one common thing. So I can recast any problem that is NP hard into any other problem that is NP hard. And the sort of classic is 3-SAT. Again, that's probably for a topic for a different day, but suffice it to say, all of these things can boil down into this one kind of problem. And if you can solve that one kind of problem, you can solve all of them.
X squared minus 1. Is that the one?
That's not SAT. No. And like for very small cases, like 3-SAT is, you've got bits, they're yet true or false,
Mm-hmm.
and then you can say yes or no, and like A or B,
Mm-hmm.
and B or C, and D or E. The variables A, B, C, D, and E are independent. They could be on or off, 1 or 0, true or false. And then what possible allowable values make that whole thing true.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so there's this whole notion with pairs of them that you can do fairly easily, but with triples of them,
Oh, yeah.
it rapidly explodes beyond all comprehension.
This one I am vaguely aware of.
Right. So the 3-SAT problem is hard. And if you could convert from 3-SAT to something that's
It's
lower,
an astrophysics thing. If I have two objects and one orbits, no problem. Trying to predict the orbit of the
three-body problem.
The three-body problem.
Right.
Yeah. That's just sort of like a physical manifestation of this issue.
Kind of, yeah.
Okay.
So it gets hard. So with all of these states, and that's with just a chessboard, with just 8, 9 different kinds of pieces,
Mm-hmm.
starting in a very fixed position, mirrored,
Mm-hmm.
roughly mirrored, and then all the places it can go. That's not a lot of things in not a lot of real estate, and it will take to the heat death of the universe to figure out all of them,
Mm-hmm.
given current computing technologies.
Yeah.
Now explain to me how many possible ways and places a city can be.
Yeah. Because
Right.
it also has like an up.
It
and
has
a down.
It has an up and a down, but it also has time. But time of day, we have time. We have an unknown number of other actors. We have trees falling. We have leaves falling. We have rain. We have water hydrants spraying water.
Well,
We have kids kicking balls into the street. There's a billion things that could be different, right?
Flat tire.
A flat tire,
Right?
debris on the roads,
Things we want our car to know about.
right? All of the construction.
I want our human drivers to know about all these problems.
Construction.
Yeah.
Construction's a problem too.
Mm-hmm.
So there's lots of things. So in order to model that, it takes a lot of these vectors to describe what it looks like. And to generate a new one takes a tremendous amount of math.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to be able to do that. And we're doing it better and stronger and faster because we're building better, stronger, faster hardware. And one of the things was this Cosmos that NVIDIA put out, not a plug, never used it. Looks pretty cool though. You go NVIDIA, do the thing. But they will model a warehouse so that you can then model your robot doing things in the warehouse. And it's state aware. It has some kind of its own history so that the robot that you're looking at in frame 1 is the same as the same robot as if you'd had a physical robot in frame 1. Like if you took a video of a robot and it picks up a thing and puts it over here, the robot suddenly doesn't change shape between here and here. It moves.
It does the thing.
It translates through space and time. Unlike those creepy, like when you get an AI rendition of a raccoon and it has like 18 fingers.
True.
Right. So,
The McDonald's cats are cute.
yeah. So they've generated this system whereby they can generate photorealistic environments in real time, and then they can run the robots through the environment in real time to learn how to do the thing. They could turn off the visualizations and then just
not worry about
real time and seeing it. But it'd be really good for building driving simulators for actual training humans as well.
Mm-hmm.
So lots of things that you could do with that.
Well, plus then, like, we don't have to program in the event, right? Like if I were in an old school flight simulator, someone's going to push a button that sets off the program of fuel
Birds.
tank, bird into the, right?
Yeah.
But it has to be a plan. It's a planned event, right? It's always going to be the bird hitting at that angle every time.
Yeah.
Where in real life, that bird's coming in pretty much at a different angle every time. I mean,
Guaranteed.
slurp right through the front, but like it could be this way, right?
Yep.
So that's where that kind of modeling would exceed, in my eyes anyway, would exceed building this whole city with the sequence of events, and then did the driver learn the sequence of events, or did the driver learn to cope with each individual event?
Well, and that was actually the topic of, I think, the first of the sessions I went to at Upper Bound. It was discussing, it was in the blue sky research kind of thing. That's where you just sort of go, we should do this thing because maybe it possibly needs doing. We don't know what we're going to do with it yet, but we think we should be doing this. Blue sky. And they are working on neurosymbolic AI. So a long time ago, like in the 60s, we were doing symbolic AI, where we have a bunch of predicates that say, given these things, expect this result. Given these things, expect this result. You have a whole bunch of rules. You give it some data, it follows the rules and spits it out. We use Prolog a lot for writing those kinds of things. Prolog is a programming language. It uses logic.
But like essentially, though, you've invented the calculator, right? Like I'm giving it inputs, and it's going to give me this output. Like, and if it doesn't give me that output, then it's not succeeding at the input conversion.
Right. But we're doing a calculator based on those rules to do things like decide whether to keep filling up a bucket, or where to stop before you back into a wall.
Oh, I was meaning in your 60s example.
Yes, me too.
They were figuring out how to fill a bucket?
Sure.
Neat.
Well, anything that you could describe.
Oh, yeah.
If you come up with all the rules, you can just you build this big old logic tree and say, if this is the case, do this. If this is the case, do this.
Programming in basic. If A, then?
Yeah, sure.
I'm just trying to.
Yeah. So
how this works.
So there'd be like a table of rules.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. And so if the light is green and there's no cars coming, and there's no pedestrians, go forward.
Proceed with caution, as per the traffic law.
Right. Don't know what to do if there's a squirrel.
Nope. Yeah, not yet. Right.
So we have to write a squirrel rule.
Well, once we forget about the thing we forget about, but so
right. So
I guess that's where my. So you're making this model. See?
We're making this model.
And we think we've given it all of the variables that could ever happen in 99.9% of the cities. We've given it that.
Yep.
There's going to be the missing things.
Right. But we've got. So here's the thing. We were thinking that because this is the way we think about things, that these symbolic ways of doing it would be the way to do artificial intelligence. We want machines to be smart like us. We need to teach them to think like us. And that was really strong for quite some time. But then there was also this competing notion of neural networks. Like physically, we build neural pathways by reinforcing, myelinating the pathways in our brain, and using potentials and firing and a whole bunch of electrochemistry to do all of this stuff. We could actually simulate that with an artificial neuron that it gets some amount of input and may or may not give some output, which gives us neural networks that we have that give us large language models. So we can learn those things the way the brain learns them. But it turns out, or it seems like, that is hugely expensive. It's costly on the environment. It's costly just on the pocketbook, but on the environment. The amount of energy we spend the amount of energy you spend by saying, hey, Grok, draw me a picture of a platypus and a penguin is obscene. Like, it's an obscene waste.
And then adding please and thank you. actually is like 1% more than that obscene waste.
Yeah, and it's and it is what it is. We do what we do. It's fine enough. But our brains don't use that much energy doing this neural network thing. Why? Well, because part of what our brain encapsulates is these symbolic rules. So driving, we don't have to know how to drive on every street.
No, that's true.
We learn...
Like, there isn't a different rule on this road if I turn left.
Generally. Unless there's a sign that says there's a different rule.
Right? Yeah.
Right? So we learn really good generalizations, which you can do with a neural network.
Mm-hmm.
But we have a set of rules that can be applied in concert as justification or pre-planning. And if we could find a way to balance the data resource crunching heavy, data hungry neural network side, the neural part, with symbolic logic, where we know some rules, like don't run over people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, generally speaking,
we consider that bad.
That's a rule.
Yep. We
don't have to learn that for every piece of road.
Yes, we just say don't hit people.
Don't hit people. And that should just always be a rule, whether we've ever seen people or never seen people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Don't hit the wildlife. I may have never seen a deer, but I sure won't hit one because that's the rule.
Right. So what the nice folks who are doing this, and they've been sort of working towards this for 30 years, and they encapsulated their 30 years of research into a 35-minute presentation.
Ouch.
And I've just kind of hit the high points in 5 minutes. Like that part is just like 5 minutes. That's the 5-minute breakdown. Basically, they're saying if we use the predicate logic part, the symbolic logic to manage the big stuff, then we don't need all the data. We need enough data. The example was a researcher was teaching his daughter to play chess. She didn't have to examine every board state ever to learn how to play chess.
She just needed
She saw some, and she needed to know some of the rules to learn more of the rules and to see more of the board states, right? And it's a give and take between the data and the rules.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so you can learn faster, and it actually gives you educable systems.
Gotcha.
Which is better than these ones that you have to train up at one time and then use it another time. And cheaper.
Yeah,
right?
I was going to say, yeah, because to build a model for every situation is burdensome, but to have an outline of how to deal with any model situation, less burdensome, because it doesn't matter what model we present, the rules are the same.
Right.
Yeah.
So so for me, that was the highlight, and it's of my week. There were other great things, but that was the highlight, and that was the first session I went to. It was like, oh,
no best for last for you.
No best for last for me.
Did it feel like you cheated on your wife? It was that good?
Not quite that good.
Okay.
No. But it was really good. It was refreshing. It was a new take on some things, and it had that feel that the deep learning, that all the outcome, the deep learning research that was coming out in 2013, 14, 15, it had that kind of flavor to it. So kind of over the next 10 years or so, we're going to see more. I predict we will see more of that. And I think that's a good thing, because it will cut down on how much data we need to have to do things. And it will improve the way that we can teach the machines to do the jobs that we want them to do.
Cool.
So I thought that was really cool.
I like that. Good model, don't kill people.
Yeah. Yeah, I wish we could teach people that.
It would be great. I have a question then.
Yeah. Fire away.
Because we totally missed our half-hour break too, by the way. Awesome. I think this is the first time ever.
Yeah.
So, can I create an AI without an LLM?
Sure.
Cool.
Because, depend. Yes. So
I realize when I asked.
yeah, you say the thing, and then I'm gonna say yes or yes but one of those two. Depends on what you want it to do.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I was.
Right, if you want it to chat with you.
Mm-hmm.
So again, there's so when I talk to ChatGPT or
any of those, Gemini, there's at least 6 common ones.
Yeah, so there's Copilot,
That's
there's ChatGPT, there's Grok, are the sort of the biggest 3 that I can think of for the AI chat interface.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Right? So that's a program, that's an agent that relies on an underlying large language model for token generation.
So Grok is the interface for the XAI large language model.
Roughly speaking, yeah.
Yeah.
There's lots of agents in there, but so Grok could be the front end, and then or at ChatGPT.
Mm-hmm.
All those are the front end part, and they say, okay, here's the context, and just like your predictive text when you're typing, it takes the first piece as context and generates the tokens that it thinks will go next most likely.
Mm-hmm.
And as the systems get better, there are federations like it will randomly generate 3 or 4 that seem legitimate. You can build a fact check module into that, so it actually does a thing, and then before it emits something, it will also go and grab some data from the Googles.
Ooh,
or
you
wherever.
push the deep think button on Grok if you want it to do that.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
so,
it just wants to give you an answer to keep you excited and giddy.
yeah. So then, what you can do then is you can sort of look at it and say, okay, well, you've just told me that the population of Pluto is 2 million, and I say, are you sure? And it goes out and does some actual fact checking and comes back and goes, oh, my bad, right? And this is where the symbolic part comes in great. What you do is you then add a symbolic rule saying there are not 2 million people on Pluto. Do not allow the machine to generate that as an output ever. If you ever think you're going to say that,
don't.
Check again.
Yeah, make sure we have put people there yet. Hey?
Yeah.
I know we've got like a minute and a half, right?
Yeah.
2 minutes.
Yeah. So what we're doing, it's actually a layer of things. So it's not just one thing, but you could build, you could build a chat GPT that, well, you can build a generative pre-trained transformer that doesn't chat, but what it does is it uses verbal input and transforms it into sound or transforms it into images, which is how you get computer generated images, or I think it's VO3 that Google just came out with that you give it a story and it will generate video.
Yeah, I know the Grok was working on that because I was playing with the cartoon idea of Coffee Man, the adventures thereof, and it was like, I could make this a movie, and then I said, do that, and it said, well, not yet, actually. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to Paige Bailey. Shout out to Paige Bailey, who I see on X a lot, who was one of the speakers at the conference. I was cross-booked. I couldn't go see her.
It.
I know, right? She's probably going to do some work with that, I'm guessing, because she's really big about this kind of generative AI. And the generation part, it learns a model, not necessarily a language model, but it might be a large visual model, right? And there are so many parts.
That's what I was wondering about. Yes, indeed. I guess that's. I want to maybe tie it up on something like.
Put a bow on it?
Yeah. Like I don't want to have the whole world thinking that it's like it's. What's the word I'm looking for?
This is not Skynet.
It's not a cure-all, and it's not Skynet, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a tool and could become either of those. Panacea, dear God.
Yeah.
Sorry, yes.
Yeah, the pancake thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think like it lives somewhere in there, and those potentials will exist. But as I was alluding to before, where they're like, "Hey, Grok, be politically incorrect, but tell the truth," doesn't necessarily get you right-wing politics, right? So so I think even though they're trying to build the thing that kills us, it just it's so hard to specifically bias a thing.
We'll talk about de-biasing a different day.
But to me, it just seems like near impossible without it outing itself, i.e. white South Africans that showed up in the grok. And so anybody that posted anything from grok, it would say, and by the way, did you know? Right? So those kinds of things, it's very hard to do, to give it a goof thing to do.
Yeah.
It doesn't learn that way.
Yeah, and it's going to be like working with a friend. You work with friends who know some things, and you work with friends who are very confident but don't actually know the things that they're being confident about. And that's where we are today.
That sounds good.
So
I can live with that.
I think we have to leave it there.
I think we do.
I'm Steven.
I'm Jeff, and we really do exist.
Yep. How do you get there?
Thanks, guys. See you next week. Nope, 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks.